All right, first off, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Rakakwadash. The bonus to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Shalom to the brothers in the highways and byways pushing this word in all sincerity and truth. The sisters, the believers, the helps, the hopeful elect. Shalom. This is the brother Arwam from a James Jamaica camp. Come with another quick lesson. And you know, been meditating upon pacing ourselves. Pacing is a very important thing as it pertains to growth. Pacing is very important as it pertains to learning. About a week or two ago, I saw a brother did a video about being intentional, and pacing ourselves helps with being intentional. Even the apostles have said it from time to time that you know in this truth, especially Apostle Gabar, can remember most recently saying that you know with this truth, it's all about balance. It's all about balance. It's all about timing, where it's a standpoint of you study too much, then you can burn yourself out. Or it can be a Apostle Tara states about you can't understand this truth by just simply reading and doing breakdowns. You have to have experiences. Now, does that mean that you shouldn't be reading? No. And does it mean that you should only be doing you're trying just trying things out, like with no form of theoretical backing, so to speak, meaning that reading the scriptures and gaining more understanding as you go through? No. But guess what? It requires it's a full movement. It requires pacing. And as a matter of fact, let me just bring up the word pacing right here. Wasn't gonna do it, but let me just check. So it says the rate of movement, right? It says the runner's pace as an example. Rate of progress, right? The parallel of rate of growth or development. The rate or performance, the rate of performance or the rate of delivery, right? Rhythm, right? Animation, fluency, right? Let me see if there's anything in regards to the root, because that pretty much says it all. But just in case. Alright, so to go before, to keep with pace. Usually this gives the root. Let's try to get to that part. Right, okay, so stride, step. Alright, so that's all in pace. Now let's read this here as it says in 1 Corinthians 9 verse 24. It says, "Know ye not that they which run in a race run all, but one receiveth the prize?" So it's a question, right? It says we all if we know not that everyone that which they which run a race run all, right? So everyone runs, but one receiveth the prize, right? It says, "So run that ye may obtain." All right. So it's saying that yes, everyone is running to receive that prize, but you have to run in a manner that allows you to obtain, right? Verse 25, it says, "And every man that striveth for the mastery is temperate in all things." All right, so let's look up the word temperate, because even that reminds me of the word temple, I need to check if it's also linked. But yeah, let's check on the word temperate. All right, so the Greek is right there. Play it.
Strong's G 1467. Ekratuamai. Ekratuamai.
All right, so it says to be self-controlled, to be content, to exhibit self-governance, conduct oneself temperately, in a figure drawn from athletes who, in preparing themselves for the games, abstain from unwholesome food, wine, and sexual indulgence. All right. So that's it from this scripture showing that we intemperate. It says it's temperate in all things. So self control, right? So let's see if the Merriam-Webster can actually give us a bit more. I think the word goes back to being seasonal, which goes back to time. All right. Enough of this. All right. So it says having a modern climate. It says marked by moderation. As such, keeping or held within limits. And that's how you pace yourself, right? You stay within certain limits. So at one point, at one point of the race, your speed should be one particular limit, based on your fitness, of course, because that is why, everyone must work out his own salvation with fear and trembling. Everyone needs to know, who they are. The scripture in Sirach says that, not all things are good for all men. Every man, it says, prove thy soul and give that is not good unto it, right? So it says, give not that which is not which is not good for it unto it, meaning that you abstain from certain things once it's not good for you. So you stay within your limit, right? It says not extreme nor excessive. So the other pardon, if anyone knows about track and field out here in Jamaica, it's a major thing. There's a the first half of the race when they exit the block is called the dry phase. So it's not yes, you want to get out of the blocks quickly, but it's not where you'd be at your fastest. And then within this is within with most races, but like it's more particular in like 100 meter, right? So you get out the blocks in the dry phase, and when you get out, even though you get out of the blocks quickly, you're a bit slow because you're getting up, and it's taking a bit of technique to actually get upright. And then as you transition to that upright state and you start to get your balance, then you go into, I don't remember what they call that phase, but you get into that point where you start to stride, and you go full force. And within that first half, so it really takes you a bit of time. The quicker you can get through those the first two phases, then it's good for you. But guess what? Those two phases are usually slow within its whole execution. But the quicker you get out of it, it's good. But that's the slow part of the race. That's then afterwards you stride, right? Afterwards you stride. It's the same thing with a marathon. In the first half, you do your warm ups, whatever. You start the race, and then you get the body going, right? The muscles aren't you start off slowly, and then as time goes on, you build up the pace, right? You don't just dart out of the blocks in a marathon right off the bat. You have to pace yourself. And it's the same thing within this route. And even throughout the race, you have times where you can speed up, and then there's times when you actually slow down. You may be slowing down because there's a hill, or maybe there's a downward slope, or maybe there's a corner or something, and you have to get that speed up. You bring it back down. Also ensure that you're not overexerting yourself but you don't want to be too slow where we're not putting out enough effort. All right. And it goes with everything. You have a time when you're reading, you know you need to take breaks, right? So if so, you're reading, you trying to read 3 books in one night doesn't help, because guess what, your brain needs time to digest that information. You may be reading for maybe 15 to 20 minutes, maybe half hour. Some brothers, not all brothers are the same. Some brothers can read for long portions and everything works. But for me, I find where reading, taking breaks within even certain bullet points within the chapters, or even after every chapter, there are certain times where it's not that I take a big break, but there are times when you're reading and you just have to sit down and you have to digest what you have read. And then there's a certain point where after you read to a certain point, it's best to just stop and give it some time to sink in, because it's constantly giving your body information. It really doesn't really help. So there's a time to go fast, there's a time to go slow, there's a time to do one thing, there's a time to do another thing, right? As it says here, it says by moderation, keeping or held within limits, not extreme or excessive, moderate in indulgence of appetites or desires, moderate in the use. Well, I'm gonna skip that one, right? All right, so we're gonna look up the word moderate, avoiding extremes of behaviors or expressions, observing reasonable limits. And that is what it takes. So it takes pacing. So yes, being on fire for this truth, it doesn't mean that even though you're thinking about the truth, majority of the time, it doesn't mean that that's all you do, like just scriptures, reading videos. There's a time where you have to step away. Not step away, but you need to just step back and see where you are. Bring it into perspective. Sometimes what you should be reading, another time you should be self-examination. And that is why it says what it's a balance, as the scripture says that he that is temperate, so like he that, but for he that striveth, and every man, so like that striveth for the mastery, is temperate in all things, right? It says, now they do it to obtain a corruptible crown, but we an incorruptible crown. So we have to be temperate. Now here's the second point, verse 26. It says, I therefore so run, not as uncertainly. So you're not just doing, you're not just reading a lot because you're saying, if I read a lot, then, I'll understand more. Or if I do this a lot, then this will happen. And you try to force growth, right? If it's a case where, it takes, for example, children, even though you have premature births, but in normal circumstances, if a child, the time frame for a child to be born is usually 9 to 10 months. So no, it doesn't matter the amount of care or the amount of things that you try to do within the first 2 months for that that belly to grow and be able to be fully developed. It's not going to happen until it's perfect time. Certain things take time. Certain things, certain levels of growth are with everything in the world, it takes a certain, there's a process. And if you don't go through the process properly, you may hinder growth, or even if it does grow, there's gonna be it will not be sufficient. It won't be perfect, meaning within its own right. All right, it won't be perfect when it's own right. Same thing with plants and farming. It starts out slow. you know it may take you as humanly possible a certain amount of time to clear or to do certain acres, or a certain standpoint. Let's say that it's only you try to just go, 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 Eventually you might even hurt a muscle or hurt yourself, and then afterwards it's like you can't, you can't do it because it's what you did not take the adequate amount of rest needed. you know so it's a balance, right? It says so, and you doing that is you fighting uncertain, because it means that you don't understand what you're doing, you don't understand what you're about, because you're not following the process, you're not pacing yourself, you're uncertain in what to do. So you overread, you over rest, or you don't rest at all, or whatever the case is, it's not within the proper it's not within the proper balance, right? So you're uncertain, and then that hinders and prevents growth, and prevents things happen within its right time, and that is why a major part of this truth is also patience. Sometimes when certain things don't work out, because we try to 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 speed things up, you know and you can also be over patient as well, where there are times when it's time to act, but you're falling behind, right? So that is being uncertain, right? So I fight not as one that beateth the air, but I keep under my body, and bring it into subjection, lest by any means, when I preach to others, I myself should be a castaway. All right? And pacing yourself is bringing your body into subjection. All right, now it's time to eat. Now it's time to sleep. Now it's time to do this. Now it's time to do that. Instead of saying, oh, um, you know, eating makes me strong. Sleeping helps. Knowing these things and just doing them, without any form of intentional, without being intentional about it. You going off your emotions, that's you going off your feelings, you know because there isn't any direction, there isn't any path, there isn't any plan, there isn't any process. So you're just being random, without pretty much aimlessly, uncertain. You're just doing. But pacing helps us. All right, gonna close out with one final precept from Ecclesiastes. Salaka, if this went a bit, I hope I'm not ranting. I hope that this is actually edifying. So Salakia, if it's a bit too much with the examples, try to cut that down. Salakia, Old Testament, time and place. Or time and season. If you look up the word temperance, it goes back to seasons, which means a certain period of time. All right. So this is Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1. It says, "To everything there is a season, and to every time and a time to every purpose under the heaven." All right. Just gonna look up the word season, look up the word time, then I'll close out. So the word season, a set time, an appointed time. Anything here? Says everything remains only so long. All things are frail and fleeting. All right, so I'll just leave that as is. It says to every time, everything there's a time, is a season, and to every purpose a time. So it says and if time as in of an event or usual or experiences or occurrences. So to everything, there's a time for it. And for every and for every purpose. So every time something needs to be done, there's an event for it or occurrence for it. And it goes down and gives a time to be born, time to die, time to plant, time to pluck up. You can go through the whole chapter. So just go ahead, think about this. Hope this is edifying. Once more, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Makakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Shalom to the brothers in the highways and byways pushing this word now, sincerity and truth. The sisters, the believers, the helps, the hopeful elect. Shalom.